Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, my dear learners. I welcome you to English Grade 6 video lessons. I'm your instructor Zahmeed. I hope that you're doing well. So as you know that we are dealing with unit number 1, Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's patience. My dear learners, this will be our lecture number 6 with the topic attentive listening skills, and the competency we are dealing with is oral communication. So let's begin by reading our students learning outcome. Our students learning outcome is about the competency of oral communication. It says demonstrate attentive listening skills towards others and be sensitive to the rules of turn taking and discourse. My dear learners, what do we understand by our students learning outcome? We will demonstrate attentive listening skills. It means that we will develop skills of a very good and attentive listener, and we will also take care of turn taking while we are making a conversation or having communication. So now, and we also have to be sensitive to the rules of turn taking. So this will be covered in this lesson. Let's move forward. I hope the SLO is very clear now. Here is a vertical linkage of the SLO with the previous grade. You have gone through it. Take turns to speak on a range of topics of their own choices. So you are already familiar with the concept of turn taking when we are making a conversation. Let's move forward with our brainstorming activity. In this brainstorming session, we have a picture for you. It says the power of active listening. You can read this along with me. Buck, you get along with everyone. What's your secret? And Buck says nobody hates a listener. So what do you conclude from this picture? Yes, it is very important to be a good and attentive listener. So that's why when we are good listeners, we can get along with everybody. So think more about having active listening skills, attentive listening skills. Why listening is important? Why do you need to equip these skills? So after this brainstorming session, let's talk about our topic, active listening skills and taking turns. My dear learners, let's talk about what is listening. Listening is receiving language through the ears. Listening involves identifying the sounds of speech and processing them into words and sentences. When we listen, we use our ears to receive individual sounds, letters, stress, rhythm, and pauses, and we use our brain to convert these into messages that mean something to us. So this is all about listening. Listening is an active process. Keep this in mind. And also it is about receiving the language. When we are speaking, when we are articulating words or sentences, we are actually sending the language. We are conveying it. So the other person who is listening is receiving it. So this process of receiving a language is called listening, and it is very important if you want to carry on your conversation or communication further effectively, and if you want to get the message in the right way. We also saw that when we listen, we use our ears to receive individual sounds. All these things like letters, stresses, rhythm, and pauses, and we use our brain to convert these into meaningful things, meaningful messages that mean something to us. So this is the whole process of listening. This is different than hearing, which is when we are hearing, we are just hearing sounds and noises. We are not actually listening to it. There is no message in it. So this is the difference between hearing and listening. So we are clear about these things. Now let's move forward. Listening is one of the best qualities that you can have as a human being or as a member of a community or society. So listening is one of the best qualities. One human pay attention to other human, which is very important. It's the building point and building unit of a good relationship and also a good communication. Listening attentively or actively it shows respect, builds trust, and cements relationships. So these are the three purposes and ultimately the effects of being a good listener and an attentive listener. My dear learners, let's talk about turn taking. Yes, we are talking about turns when we are speaking. If one person speaks and do not listen, it means the turn taking process is not being held. Here, turn taking is a term for the manner in which conversation normally takes place, one after the other, back and forth. So, for example, person 1 says hello, person 2 says hey, person 1, how are you? Person 2, I'm fine, thanks. So, you can see the turn taking process taking place here, because if it does not take place, if you do not care about turn taking, then there will be no conversation, no effective communication. If one person talks and the other person does not respond and vice versa, then the purpose of communication or conversation will be no longer effective. So now, my dear learners, we know that there are some rules for turn taking. Let's read them. The social and situational context of the interview will also determine who speaks first, how long they may speak, and whether or not they have the right to interrupt a speaker. So this is taking the scenario of an interview here as an example. Generally, a person of higher social status will speak first for as long as they need and should not be interrupted. This is rule number 1. Next, we have one thing that you should know as an interpreter is how to recognize discourse markers that indicate when a speaker is finished with his or her turn. So you need to decode it as an interpreter. A speaker may signal the end of a turn by asking one person to respond, either by asking a question, making a request, or issuing an invitation. So this is when you know that the turn will be to the other person and the turn taking takes place. Or as a speaker may stop talking and leave a period of silence. This is the cultural specific. This is cultural specific, and if the speaker is a native speaker of English, then any period of silence may be interpreted as giving up a speaking turn. So these are some rules. As we know that when we are having trouble with English conversation, since it's not our first language, we may take pauses. But when a native speaks it, he can give you indications that now you can speak. It's your time. It's your turn to take up the conversation further. So these are different scenarios, different rules, and they vary from person to person. But most of them, these rules are applicable and they needed to be considered. So now we have a simulation video for your better understanding. You can watch it anytime. My dear learners, here is a classroom activity for you. This is from oral communication. We have a question. Converse in small groups and share your favorite hobby. Take turns speaking and listening to each other attentively, ask questions and make comments to show that you are actively listening. So this is where your theoretical ideas and concepts of and the rules of turn taking will take place. You have to be careful when you're making when you're doing this classroom activity. Give the other person time to speak or answer. So practice these rules in your classroom activity. Now, my dear learners, we have a worksheet for your help and understanding. I request the fellow teachers to distribute it among your students to evaluate them better. So now we are here with our homework. It says, engage in a group conversation at home on a specific topic, practice attentive listening skills and respectful turn taking. So you can do this homework. You can also record the video or audio of this activity if you can. So now, my dear learners, we are here at the end of our lecture. This is these resources are for your help and your better understanding. They are attached with the description of the video. You can find it easily. We have worksheet, presentation, a lesson plan, question bank, and finally a skill sheet. All these things are available. I hope that you had great time learning about attentive listening skills, and the rules of turn taking so you can make an effective oral communication or conversation. This is your instructor Zahmeed signing off. We will meet in the next lecture. Allah Hafiz.